Hello there and welcome back. If you have been here since the beginning, you are a superstar. If you just joined, welcome. I hope you enjoy my ramblings. I do a video every Monday and then a live stream every Wednesday. This is said video though. Today we're going to build a red deer habitat, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the horn god or Cernunnus or the green man or whatever. There's so many different names for this guy. It's quite incredible actually. And doing research on this was interesting because there's not a lot, like evidence-wise. All we got for real, where he's named that also basically, is this pot, like a cauldron that has a depiction of him on it, and then there's also like I think a stone or something. Let me just double check that. Where was that now? Oh yes, a pillar. There is a Roman pillar carved in Paris sometime during the 1st century BC. And the pillar depicted a number of Roman and Gaelic gods. Cernunnus was one of them. And these are actually the only two depictions that have been attributed to him, this cauldron and this pillar, right? So from that, like, there's a lot of mythology around it. I mean, we can start on the pagan side. The pagans obviously believe in the god and the goddess and the horn god, the green man, which is this god who gets born every spring and then dies in winter again and gets reborn in spring. It's a whole story basically explaining how seasons work, right? But I'm not here to tell you all of that because I feel like that's very common knowledge type of mythology. We all know the story of that. And then, I mean, there's all the depictions of satyrs in pagan mythology. And the satyr is always a kind of a incarnation of this horn god. So mostly the mythology and the lore comes from like the Gaelic mythology, and then also there's some Norse mythology around it. I feel like it's from those parts of the land. But why was it on a Roman pillar, right? That's a good question, isn't it? And the cauldron was actually a Danish cauldron, dating back from the same like 1st century BC, so it's same kind of timeline. Now, I want to drop like another part of something, like my own little opinion on this thing, right? So, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good at finding similarities between subjects that seemingly have nothing in common, right? If you follow where I'm going, right? So, I read the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh. I read like the original scrolls as far as I could, but I've read the summary of the story many times. So I know all the characters. I know I know what the story is about, basically, right? I know how I could retell it in short to a person. So the first part of the story is where I want to focus, because in the first part of the story, Gilgamesh is this ultimate king, and like there's no match for him in the whole land. And somebody tells him about this mountain, this wild man that lives in the mountains or in the forest or something, where he has like horns and a long beard, and he can communicate with animals, and he's this nature man, like Bear Grylls type, you know. So, but they tell him like this guy, they think this is a match for him, Mr. King Gilgamesh, right? So he obviously didn't like that, and he sends one of his little prostitute hooker like ladies to go and kind of seduce this beast man whose name is Enkidu, by the way, spelled Enkido, Enkidu. So she goes and she starts like seducing him, and she gets it right, and they spend the night together and blah blah blah. Now the animals don't want to touch him anymore, but she tells him, listen, we need to go somewhere else because there's this king tyrant, King Gilgamesh, because now what you need to know about King Gilgamesh is he had a law that said when somebody gets married, he gets to like deflower the bride, and then so that's a little bit unfair, right? And he also has rights to any of the citizens as women, so he could just like basically go at anybody he wanted to, which is a little bit sketchy even back in those days. So hearing this, Enkidu is enraged, and he's like, no way, I have to go stop this maniac king, I'm strong. Goes and he fights King Gilgamesh, and they fuck up the whole fucking Uruk, and like it's a big mess and shit. And eventually they realize it's kind of like boys fighting, where they fight and then just start laughing, like that's how they kind of get over their shit. Like, females carry grudges for years, but boys beat each other up a little bit and then they're over it. Like that's the same in this story. They beat each other up a little bit, realize, oh, we're equally as strong as each other, so let's just be friends, and they become best friends. Now my reading of this is they were a little bit more than friends actually, but I feel like it's almost sacrilege to say such a thing about such an old script, when maybe but I feel like back in those days they were a lot more open about, especially a king who sleeps with everybody's wives. I just feel like the way that they explain how King Gilgamesh feels about this Enkidu character and how he feels when he dies eventually is just like, it's a bit more than friends, if you get my drift. Yeah. So here's my thing. This character Enkidu that is explained in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the character Cernunnus, the god Cernunnus or whatever, sounds like a very similar god. And the Epic of Gilgamesh, it didn't happen, but it was written around the same time as when those things were carved. So here's my logic of it. I like to make logic out of these stories, and I would love to hear people's opinions on this and what's your take of what I'm saying. Be part of my conversation, I like to start conversations. But here's my thing. I think, logically speaking, and thinking historically and scientifically and logically about it, right? I think Cernunnus or Enkidu or whatever was kind of like a genetic experiment of the gods, because everywhere he was born of the gods. So Enkidu was born of the gods, but Cernunnus is a god born of other gods. So technically, same thing, right? Right? Similar thing, basically. And I feel like maybe he was an experiment, and then he was, it's okay, we leave him in the wild, he's good with the animals. It worked out great, but then people started learning about this, and it became kind of a legend and a story, and people started adding their own little flair, obviously, to it, to make it into a god, because these beings were just beings until we made them gods. We need to understand that. And then around about the 1st century BC, people started, there was a bunch of people who started commemorating this person as he had died, and stories were being told about him. And I feel like that's also why there's a very short bit of history about him also, because maybe there wasn't a lot to be known about him, and by the time that stuff, he came into civilization, because these stories is probably stuff, people that met him in Uruk and those places, and then traveled to other areas like Rome and told these stories about, there was this god, this animal god man in our town and in our city. And you can make it realistic, put yourself in those shoes and imagine if you lived back then, like, I mean, their social laws weren't much different than ours are today. We just have, like, it's just colored in a different color. That's all, if I can put it that way. It just looks a little bit different. But in essence, when it comes down to the basics, like, it really is the same things. So I don't know. That's my take on the horn god or Cernunnus, and I think he's connected to the seasons because he's connected to nature, and because he, as a being himself, understood the seasons very well and probably taught a few humans about seasons a little bit, like while he was there in the cities and among civilization and stuff. Because I mean, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells us the story, but in reality, this was just a little bit of what happened. There was days and months in between that they don't tell us exactly what happened there. I mean, it's not a documentary, it's an epic, so makes sense, right? Yeah, and there you go. That's my ramblings for today. Today I'm actually going to leave you a little bit with the Planet Zoo music for a while. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy my build. It's a long build because we're building this habitat part, the entire habitat part. And then also I'm going to be adding, you'll see in a second, I'm going to be adding a whole little extra section for 2 exhibits. So it's quite a big build altogether. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And I'll see you at the end. And that is it, people. I don't know if you saw my big struggle there with this path, but it is what it is. It looks like this now. People almost might walk around. I don't know. I can't help myself ever. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, it's connected again. Okay. So I kind of like how it turned out. I did, however, add these things here because people kept on squishing their little faces up against the glass, and that was very annoying. Let's go look at some of the animals. You have quite a few red deer in here by now. Lots of little Bambis. You have a different male than what you saw in the building video. So, yeah, quite a few things have changed. And I think this thing is different than in the video, in the building, in the building board. So let's play a little bit and see some of these animals in action. Oh, they were very stressed, I remember. Oh, they're so cute. Quite a popular exhibit or habitat because of their sitting place. Yeah, baby. Ah, that red deer was mating over here. We actually had a pause on that. I should have taken a screenshot there. Oh, damn it. I actually wanted to stop raining. But yeah, that's it for the red deer habitat. I hope you enjoyed my video and my story. I would love to hear what you think about my stories, if you enjoy that part also. Oh, there's badgers. Yeah, come back for this stream, because in the stream I actually show you all the animals. We play a bit with the animals. I build a little bit there at the entrance stuff, so definitely come back for the stream and come watch. Oh, there's so many. They're so cute, man. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Thank you for all your support. Make sure to subscribe, and I really appreciate all the likes and comments. That helps me a lot. Thank you. Yeah, bye.